From an FAD preparation standpoint, we've got a lot of work done here in the past few years. Lots of programs are out there, such as US SHIP, SPS. You heard terms such as IDOLS, USDA APHIS, CSSC, AgView. So a little bit of alphabet soup of FAD preparation programs. We sure do like our acronyms. But what we're going to do today is talk about each of these programs and how they kind of work all together to develop an integrated FAD preparation program. When we look at these programs, there's really a lot of there's three fundamental key pieces that are similar amongst them. They all have portions of them that talk about traceability, so the ability to be able to look at movements where pigs are currently and where they were previously. There's certainly strong biosecurity pieces, and there's certainly strong testing and surveillance. So those three pieces are very fundamental amongst all those programs. And we'll go into a little bit more detail and show how they do that here in a moment. Probably one of the more recent ones that you may have heard about is the US SHIP, US Swine Health Improvement Plan. So really this is taking some of these programs that are already out there and kind of integrating them all into a national playbook for preparedness. So what you can see is it takes some of these programs that were developed in collaboration with National Pork Board and the Swine Health Information Center in those areas. So like, for example, you can see with traceability, there's the AgView program that can take care of traceability concerns or needs. You can put your sites in there. It does a good job of tracing movements from those sites. From a sampling and testing, that's kind of that surveillance piece. You have a certified sampler program, which we'll talk here more about in a little bit. And then from a biosecurity standpoint, we've got the biosecurity materials and the secure pork supply. But really, US SHIP is designed to be a certification program. We'll cover that more here in a little bit. But really, essentially, is to give a passport for animals that are not in areas that are affected by control zones. So it's really kind of a way to be able to show trading partners in other states that, yes, we're utilizing these programs. We're able to demonstrate freedom from disease in sites that are outside of trade restricting control areas. And we'll cover those more in detail here in just a second. So let's talk about where these different programs may fit. So to the right here, you've got an infected site. So around that, you have an infected zone and then a buffer zone around that. So this whole circle here, that's all called a control area. Okay, so the infected site within that control area, USDA APHIS, working with the state animal health officials, they have developed a disease response strategy. This is called the Red Books, all right? So that is actually going to be for the infected site. That will take care of all the questions and concerns about that. But within that control zone, all the sites within that are going to be quarantined, okay? And that's really what the secure pork supply was designed to do, was help for business continuity for sites that were affected by being inside the control area, but not infected with one of those viruses, okay? So that's where the secure pork supply plan was really developed for these sites here that were not infected with the virus, but they were in this control zone, so they were going to be quarantined, and they want to be able to make sure that they can provide avenues to maintain business continuity while they're quarantined inside that control zone. That's really what the secure pork supply plans are designed to do. US SHIP, that's kind of for everybody else. It's everybody outside any of those trade restricting control areas, right? So it's a certification program to demonstrate a freedom of disease for those herds that are outside those trade restricting control zones. If we look at some of the requirements for each of those three programs, we see a lot of similarities again. So we see in certainly the Red Books, so for the infected site, for the secure pork supply, for those sites that are inside the control zone, but that are not infected with the virus, and for US SHIP, they're all going to be looking for movement records, hopefully electronically captured. They've all got requirements for premise ID. They all have requirements for diagnostic testing. They all have requirements for having a biosecurity plan. You can see the only differences there are the red books there for the infected site. They're going to have more information on depopulation and disposal plans for the infected animals. But as you can see, a lot of similarity. So the nice thing about this from an FAD preparation standpoint is being enrolled in US SHIP, utilizing the materials and secure pork supply plan is going to go a long ways to having you prepared when and if we get into a situation where we have a foreign animal disease outbreak inside the mainland United States. So let's talk about each of those programs. We'll start with secure pork supply first. There was a lot of attention and focus on this as we started to do FAD preparation, and a lot of those efforts really got going, accelerated in 2018, 2019, as African swine fever was racing through China and through Asia. So all those resources are available at www.securepork.org. There's biosecurity checklists and guides, videos that you can use for employee training, recognition of disease. It's just a lot of fantastic materials there for you to use in your FAD preparation. One of the key pieces in that, and what a lot of producers did in 2018 and 2019, was to complete site-specific biosecurity plans. And really with those, they were just explaining to how sites met those by having an enhanced plan, having a line of separation and perimeter buffer area, and just addressing some of those important biosecurity measures. So there were a lot of maps that were drawn in 2018, 2019. So in the case of a foreign animal disease, each site had a plan on how they would go ahead and execute some of those finer pieces of having this enhanced biosecurity plan in place. How would they go ahead and execute that? But as they got to the point of surveillance, they quickly realized that we just certainly we're not going to be able to have enough veterinarians to be able to test all the sites, particularly if we had lots of control zones or if the control zones were very big. So we know as part of that, in a confirmed FAD outbreak, samples were going to need to be collected and test negative for those sites that were going to be in control areas, that were not going to be infected, but that were going to be under quarantine. They need to have samples collected, and those samples have to test negative for